So given the title of this video, you might be surprised to learn that I only just played Hollow Knight very recently. In fact, I literally only got 112% completion yesterday. But in that short time that I've had with this game, it's quickly become my favorite that I've played this year. And for that, I want to talk about it. I want to analyze this game and understand why I enjoyed it so much, but I also want to share some of my personal experience with it. And to do that, I think there's no better place to start than with my other favorite game that I've played this year. A game that just so happened to also inspire Team Cherry in creating Hollow Knight. As with Hollow Knight in the first Legend of Zelda game, your character enters a world foreign to the player yet familiar to the protagonist. Armed with nothing but a sword, it's up to you, the player, to forge your own path through this new world. Trial after trial, continuously getting lost and then finding your way again.
I actually just freaking made like a Yoshi noise of happiness because I got the freaking map.
Zelda 1 is a true open world adventure. Going in blind is the best way to play. In my experience, this meant that I got lost between objectives for hours in some cases, and even before I found the very first one.
Level 6?
But while this did add bloat to my 12-hour playthrough, in return, every puzzle that I solved made me feel all the more clever. I played Hollow Knight right after Zelda 1, which means I went in with the same mindset. And it just so happens, both communities agree that if you go in blind, you'll have the best time. The thing is, though, that with Hollow Knight, you won't be getting lost and stumbling around the map for 3 hours without any idea where you're supposed to be going. Because Zelda 1 is a true open world game. And yes, while Hollow Knight has those genetics, it's also much more than that. Hollow Knight is also a metroidvania. You start off with nothing and grow more powerful throughout the course of the game. Your upgrades also act as keys that unlock other parts of the world, and after you tread old ground to reach these new points, you realize that the hardest enemies and obstacles that once halted your progression completely are now nothing more than speed bumps in your travels. In the Metroid series though, while a number of items that open up progression are upgrades to your laser cannon, letting you break through new doors and carry on, Hollow Knight does something a lot more interesting to me. It is a platformer. One of the highest rated platformers of all time is Super Mario 64. The team at Nintendo went into it looking to make movement fun before anything else. Making it a joy to run around the world of Mario 64 was their top priority. And so for a platformer as highly esteemed as Hollow Knight, it just so happens that Team Cherry did the exact same thing. They made sure that the movement was enjoyable before they coded any of the other mechanics for the knight, and this philosophy carries into most of the upgrades that your character can attain. They allow you to travel both vertically and horizontally in ways that you could have never imagined. Instead of needing a laser upgrade to open a certain type of door, these movement upgrades act as Hollow Knight's keys. There's a cliff over there that maybe I can reach if I had a little more jump height, maybe one of the later upgrades will let me access that. Not only does this make more sense thematically in most cases, this kind of thing keeps you thinking about the game even after you've put it down, and further, by designing each upgrade around mobility, it opens the door for players to outright break progression by simply being clever and thinking outside of the box. And once you've completed the game and have knowledge of how you can use all of these systems to your advantage, you get to come back and do it all over again for a couple of extra achievements if you're so inclined. But with the added challenges of either doing it fast or doing it without dying. Because Hollow Knight is a lot of things, and one of those things is a Souls-like. This game is kind of difficult. You will die a lot on your first run. The combat in this game builds off of the platforming. It is simplistic. There are only two buttons, one to swing your sword and another to cast spells with. Mobility takes center stage in this game, and it is fundamental to the combat. But that doesn't mean that the traditional combat sections before you have all of your movement upgrades aren't difficult. Because Hollow Knight isn't a game that is afraid to pull its punches and turn up the difficulty when you enter a new area, but the thing is that, unlike the games that inspired it, your progression is decidedly a little bit more linear at the start of the game. But that said, there are still secrets all around to be found if you are willing to search for them. Hollow Knight teaches you to keep your eyes peeled, and even if you miss an upgrade here or there, the developers tweak the difficulty of this game even after its release to make sure that every boss, every enemy encounter felt like the perfect level of challenge. And eventually, after a number of upgrades, the choices that you can make for where to go to proceed are actually increased like tenfold in number, and so Hollow Knight, like its predecessor, gives you 3 heads on the map to track down, but unlike Dark Souls, you're ready for it. This game does not feel like it's slowing to a crawl, because this game is designed with that agile exploration front and center. What this results in is, by the end credits, no 2 playthroughs will have been entirely the same, and by the time I finally slew the final boss, I still had only explored half of the game's content, half of what this game had to offer. It's this sense of control granted to the player from the very first minute that I think makes this game so compelling to talk about and enjoyable to replay, to strategize about how you want to complete the game for the second time over. Because Hollow Knight, in my opinion, is also the perfect length. It took me just about 20 hours to finish my first playthrough and only around 50 or so to get 112% completion. And even still, I haven't finished the game necessarily. I still have not finished the final boss, or rather final challenge in the 5th Pantheon. But regardless, Hollow Knight is a lot of things, and to me, the aspects of game design are not the only things that make it endearing. From the art style to the composition of music, to the 2 years that they spent developing free DLC, Hollow Knight is ultimately a love letter to the community that believed in this small group of passionate developers enough to donate tens of thousands of dollars to help fund their dream. And for me, I wouldn't have played Hollow Knight if it wasn't for the other people in this game's community. Storytime. I first played Hollow Knight as a birthday gift, I think, or perhaps a Christmas gift, on a trip to meet a couple of cousins for the first time. Now, unfortunately, I got very carsick and didn't play for long, but it turned out that one of my cousins who I met on that trip was a huge fan of this game. So was my brother, and after some convincing, I finally decided to buy this game again on Steam, because my Joy-Cons were broken, and then because we're talking about Steam here, I left it in my library for about a year before playing. Finally, with the Switch 2 presentation, Silksong was getting talked about again, and my friend was talking about it. It turns out that this game is actually his favorite game of all time, and I didn't even know. And so, I played this game again this summer, only about a month or so before Silksong was set to release, and I'm glad I did. Because on the morning of August the 21st, I decided to wake up early to catch the Silksong special announcement. And naturally, it just so happened that my friend was up too, so we had a watch party. The date got revealed September 4th, the day that Silksong would finally come out, and then as soon as I texted my cousin, he got back to me and had been watching the whole thing with us that entire time, sharing in the hype. That is a piece of media reinforcing the bonds of friendship and community, and that is what Hollow Knight has done for me. And so, even if I haven't waited 8 years for Silksong to come out like some people, after its release on September 4th, I'll soon be joining in on all of the fun with everybody else who has had a meaningful experience with this franchise. And if you want to watch me fumble around on a blind first playthrough, I'll probably be streaming my first impressions right here on YouTube, so check the pinned comment for more information about that if you're interested.
Was that the end of the game? That was the end of the game?! Okay, fam! Okay, fam!
Alright, and there you have it. If this video didn't convince you to buy Silksong, or Hollow Knight 1 for that matter, then you should definitely consider buying either of these games. I had a frickin' blast playing Hollow Knight, and I'm sure I'm gonna have a blast playing Silksong whenever I find the time to do that. I know it's been a while since my last upload. I'll be honest, 2025 has not been the best year of my life, so a culmination of a couple of factors ultimately led to some burnout. So, I don't know, I'll probably get back to posting more regularly soon here. Having a deadline for this video of the 4th, even if that date has kind of come and gone, it definitely, helped ease production of this, right? Shout out to Dante for the thumbnail here. He's helped with some art before, mainly with the moving away from ATF video all those years ago. He's come a long way since then in terms of his art, and frankly, I don't know if this video lived up to the thumbnail. Very, very quality what he put out. And yeah, shout out to him, and shout out to you. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if you want to see more Hollow Knight stuff on this channel. Have a good one.